Welcome to the Next Level Life podcast with Christine Corcoran. This podcast is made for the powerhouse businesswomen who are ready to ignite their fullest potential. This is where we will dive deep into the mindset breakthroughs and sprinkle in some kick up the butt motivation so you can scale your business with confidence and clarity. Whether you're craving more income, impact, or inspiration, this podcast will be your ultimate resource for all things next level. Listen in as we have authentic conversations with game-changing female entrepreneurs as we reveal the secrets on what it takes to rise and thrive. So go ahead, ignite your inner fire, and let's get you taking massive aligned action. Are you ready to elevate? Let's go. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I have something really special for you this week. So with everything that's been going on in the world with the Australian budget and the fuel crisis and the war in Iran and all the things, all of these external sources really do impact small business owners. It is very hard to switch off from obviously all of that and to believe that you can absolutely still have money rolling through the door. So I decided that I wanted to create something for you that will support you in this phase and recognize that you have the control to be able to shut out those external noises and to rewire your brain for more abundance. Money is a relationship that you have with it and how you respond to conversations and to news articles and to the way that it affects small business owners. There are absolutely people out there that are thriving, that are having massive numbers of clients coming to their door, that are having people spending high ticket. That is absolutely happening. But often what can happen is we can shut ourselves off to more abundance because of the stories that we're listening to and what's happening in the world. And then we create stories for ourselves and our businesses, which then impact the way that we show up in our business. So I decided that I wanted to do a 5-day money mindset reset. Because honestly, every time that I have a scarcity upset within my business, I absolutely always go back to my energy first before action. I know how easy it is to go into hustle mode and to be like, I've just got to keep doing, I've got to keep giving, I've got to keep doing all these things. And yes, there are definitely practical things that you can do within your business when these things happen. Like obviously shifting your messaging, is creating more content, being visible to more people, creating more sales conversations, following through on sales activities that you know are going to generate more leads. Like there's absolutely things that you can do, but I honestly come back to mindset first before action because we want the action to be done in an inspired fashion rather than it be done out of desperation or force or trying to control an outcome, right? Because the response that you get from that is never good. So let's dive into it. Firstly, we want to speak about scarcity. Scarcity is an internal response that we have when money gets low or gets scarce, right? We are focusing very much on lack. We're worried about whether more money is going to come through the door. We're worried about whether the economy is going to get worse. We're worried about people stopping spending. We're worried about having to pay more taxes with the budget. Like I know this is all thoughts that have been running through your mind recently. And I want you to recognize that in response to those thoughts or what you're consuming, we have an emotional response to that. This can activate our amygdala, which is a part of our primal brain, which activates our fear response. And scarcity is a fear response. Scarcity is a fear-based thought pattern that we have about not having enough, right? So we can recognize that money is very deeply connected to our survival. It is connected to our ability to put food in our mouths, connected to our ability to put a roof over our head, to be able to have water, electricity, all the things for us to be able to survive. So it is our survival response, especially when money gets low in our bank account or we don't have confirmation of new clients coming through the door. We can fear whether we're going to find new clients, and then the scarcity response is activated in our mind. So if this is happening for you, I wanted to start here because we need to shift out of the scarcity response or even just understand it a little bit more so we can respond differently. So scarcity is at its core a fear response. So we want to recognize where our thoughts are, that our thoughts are in fear. We're fearing there won't be enough. It is also recognizing that is an activation. So often when I have my clients work through my programs, there's a whole money mindset element that I always take them through is recognizing that it is an activation, not a place. Because often what can happen is that people go into this headspace of like, oh, I'm stuck in scarcity. I'm really stuck in scarcity. And you want to recognize that. Yes, I get it. You are. You're possibly stuck in scarcity where your brain is focusing and you've actually wired it in a certain way because what often happens is we have a scarcity thought, then we see a result of that in the everyday world. And then what happens is our brain is activated, our reticular activating system in our brain is activated, and then we start seeing more of that as our confirmation bias kicks in. And then we see more of it, which then confirms our belief that there's not enough, or it confirms that the economy is going to be affected, or it confirms that that fear is confirmed, right? So then we stay in the cycle, in the spiral of scarcity. And so what we want to do is we want to recognize, this is the way that I shift out of that first and foremost, is that I recognize that I have been activated. Okay? We have an activation that has happened, that our brain has highlighted what we don't want. We don't want to feel scarcity. We don't want to feel like there's not enough. We don't want to feel like our survival is being threatened. We don't want that. So we want to recognize it. It's activating that fear and it's highlighting what we don't want. So what we need to do is we need to refocus our mind first into what it is that we do want versus what we don't want. Okay? And then we want to practice some neutrality. So obviously when our survival brain is kicked in, it has activated our nervous system into a state of fear. And so firstly, what we want to do is we want to regulate our nervous system back down to safe and equilibrium, into a place of coherence, so that we can pull ourselves out of our head. And so the way that we do this is getting back into our bodies versus in our head. When we're in our head, I love the old Tony Robbins saying of like, when you're in your head, you're dead, right? And what he means by that is that your brain in your mind is where you have all the fear-based thought patterns. But when you're in your body, you're not stuck in your head. You're not stuck in overthinking and all the fear-based thoughts. But when you get back into your body, you're able to feel differently. So my first suggestion is actually learning to breathe and calm your nervous system down. So using a couple of big deep breaths, exhaling out for longer than you inhale. And you want to tell your nervous system that you are safe. And you bring yourself back to as much certainty as possible in this present moment. You currently have enough food in the fridge. You currently have enough money in the bank in order to survive, at least for today, at least for next week, right? So recognizing that first and foremost, and we want to bring ourselves back to a state of neutrality. Recognizing that we've possibly been in this situation before in the past and we survived, we got through it, we didn't die. And recognizing that we have a choice here. We have a choice now to decide what we're going to focus on. We want to recognize that focusing on the scarcity, focusing on the lack doesn't make us feel good, which then doesn't make us behave in a way that serves a growth of our business or serves our lifestyle, serves our income. So by doing that, we want to recognize that scarcity is activating us to ask us, what do we want instead? What can you focus on instead? So whenever this is activated, I always say to myself, okay, I recognize my brain, the reticular activating system is focusing on the lack. It's focusing on what I don't want. So what do I want? And your practice for today is just to keep bringing your mind back to what you do want versus what you don't want. Because we want to rewire the reticular activating system into focus on the abundance of what is available to us versus what the lack is telling us. So you might, and you don't want to jump too far. So you don't want to go to like something that's super unrealistic that your brain goes, well, that's actually not going to happen. So, saying like, I'd like $1 million instead, right? Like, and your brain's like, well, you've never had that before. What makes you think that you can go from scarcity to $1 million in a day? Like, that's impossible for most people, right? So what we want to do is recognize, like, firstly, how do we just get out of the scarcity and focus on what we do want versus what we don't want? So I want to feel like there's a possibility that new clients could come through the door. I want to feel like all my needs are taken care of. And I want you just to get super specific as best you can, which without creating too much friction. And so you want to recognize that if the friction is created in your mind, then you're probably too specific and we want to go a little bit more general. So we want to be like, okay, well, I'd like to be able to see that there's possibility of new clients coming through the door this week. I want to be able to see that I can make more money this week. So it could be just as simple as setting a short, simple goal to feel like how many sales calls you want to book this week, how much money you'd like to have come through the door, and a number that feels realistic and doable that you've done before, okay? So because when you focus on it, you'll notice the internal resistance. If there is an activation of friction and the internal resistance is like, well, that's not possible, then that's actually too specific. You want to back up a bit and go, okay, what is actually possible? So put a number down. So write a number down, focus on what it is that you do want and how you do want to feel. And then we want to choose a new money story that's actually going to support you to move forward, which is what we're going to dive into tomorrow, is the money stories that are running the show. But your job for today is getting your relationship with money back intact. And so you want to get out of scarcity by using your breath to calm your nervous system down. Then you want to say, what do I want instead? So then you want to declare what you want instead. And then the last little piece here is to bring in a level of respect for your money and get your numbers in order. So what I mean by that is just check in with your numbers. Where are you at? And if this activates even more scarcity than you know what to do, you breathe, you calm your nervous system down, and you focus on what you do want. But a lot of the time we get stuck in more scarcity because we're so stuck in our heads that we haven't even done the numbers to know whether it is a problem for us right now. So I want you to do your numbers. Look at how much money you have coming through the door this week, this month, next month after that, right? I want you to look at how much money needs to be addressed with regards to what you need to have coming in the door versus what is currently coming in the door. And I want you just to get your money relationship back intact. So if you need to pay off a couple of invoices, pay off some invoices. If you need to send a few invoices, send those out, right? Like do your due diligence in your business and get your numbers back on track. And as you're doing that, I want you to focus on gratitude. So when you're spending money, I want you to send it out with love and thank money for the ability to pay those invoices. So if you have a bill that is currently outstanding, you need to get that back in line, right? So if you can pay it off, and get back into a process of being more abundant with your money. Because what often happens when we're in scarcity is we then stop spending and we stop the cycle that is inevitable. Money is never ours. We don't own it. It's always something that we're circulating. So if we're blocking it by just not sending it out, because that's also keeping you stuck in scarcity, because when we don't send it out, we're basically saying there's not going to be enough, right? So I've got to hold on to what I've got. I've got to hoard, which we're going to talk about over the next week as well. So we want to recognize, like, what do I need to do to get my numbers back in line? And what do I need to be across with my numbers in order for me to feel better? So often when I do this, and I tell my clients to do this, is that they realize that it's not as bad as they thought it was because their brain has got so stuck in fear that it's like literally doing the worst case scenario. And then once they do that, they feel a bit better, and then they can set more clearer goals of like, cool, what do we want to have come in the door this week? What can I actually do in order to bring more money into the business this week? So that's what I want you to do first. Get yourself out of scarcity, do your numbers, figure out what you need to clean up with your own money relationship, and then come back tomorrow and let's talk about the money stories that are running the show. Thank you for listening, and if you've found any value out of this episode, make sure you hit the follow button so you get access to the episodes as soon as they are live, and make sure you come hang out with me on Instagram. You can find me at ChristineCorcoran_coach. Have an incredible week.